I am growing increasingly tired of how communism and socialism and its related ideals are conflated with the authoritarian rule of Stalin. The truth is, Stalin was not a communist, nor was he a socialist. He was a pure-blooded fascist. He emulated Hitler in unspeakable ways, from concentration camps to secret police to the destruction of opposition and repression of opposing views. He was not the natural successor in the Soviet Republic. Trotsky was the natural successor to Lenin. Lenin never wanted an authoritarian dictatorship. The rule of Stalin completely undermined the principle of rule by the proletariat. Stalin repealed all the changes that had come into place and restored the society of old, one ruling elite and an oppressed proletariat, a repressed proletariat with no voice. This was not a new system at all. It was the same as it had been before. However, this also doesn't mean that Lenin was infallible. Lenin's model of vanguardism is outdated and ineffective today. It was necessary at the time to overthrow the oppression of the Tsarist rule, but now that is not a model that can be replicated, even though revolution is becoming an increasing necessity. But this has to be a revolution of ideas, a revolution of thinking, not a brutal revolution of death and destruction. To discover the true meaning of these ideas of communism and socialism, however you might feel towards them due to the biases that have been infused within you, you have to look not to the radical Bolshevism and revolutionaries of the Russian era. You have to look at the intellectuals like Karl Marx. Marx was proven to be correct in so many ways. Even today, we still have a divided society, a society of a bourgeoisie and a proletariat. The bourgeoisie of today includes billionaire bosses, transnational corporations, and establishment politicians. Meanwhile, the proletariat of today still has repressed wages and suppressed identity, a lack of representation, and a lack of social standing. The elite classes of today have still exploited labor value, just as Marx predicted. Workers are still not rewarded in proportion to the value that they generate. Instead, we see obscene profits and shareholder payouts, which are not used for productive reasons. They are used and funneled into unproductive value, such as wealth hoarding, or into assets, which creates asset price inflation, or it is funneled into immoral activities like gambling or expansion of personal interests like excessive consumption, private jets. All of this is gratuitous and futile, yet it is sucking away the wealth of the lower classes and is perpetuating inequality. Class consciousness has solidified on both sides of the divide, but today, workers are faced with two possible paths to unite behind to achieve a revolution of ideas or a revolution of force. One path is radical right nationalism. That is the path that Farage and Reform UK offer. It is clear that taking this path will overthrow the existing bourgeoisie for something even worse. Meanwhile, the other path is progressive radicalism. These are radical ideas for the future that say we do not have to leave behind the lower classes. We do not have to maintain these entrenched systems. We do not have to maintain continuity, because continuity is what inhibits progress. It is what thwarts progress. It says that it is possible to usurp the established order. It says that things do not have to be the way that they are. It says that neoliberalism cannot continue to oppress the majority and create a society for the few, not the many. This inequality is not inevitable. If we want to reduce the alienation and the disillusionment across society, we have to take the path of progressive radicalism. This doesn't mean constraining ourselves to one ideology. It means pragmatic use of radical ideas. It means that where necessary, we can take the path that is the best for the country, not just the path that aligns with our ideological perspective. Constraining oneself within ideological boundaries of communism, capitalism, or socialism is counterproductive to progress. This is what has restricted the advancement of our countries for generations. People have been caged within the confines of these ideas for far too long. We need to move past all these established ideas, which have clearly been proven not to work in isolation. We need to combine all the intellectual ideas and forces that are available within society to achieve the best outcome possible, to remove the distortions in society, and to create a society where there is abundance for all people, not just for an elite few. The way we pursue this path of radicalism will determine whether we arrest the collapse that is taking place in our societies, or whether we see a continuation of this decline, whether we see a descent into nationalism, whether we see a descent into authoritarianism and repression. This is the path that faces all of us, and the choice has to be made now. Progressive radicalism or ethno-nationalism. That is the future. And this is exactly what Marx predicted. Social divisions on such a scale where choices have to be made. Difficult choices, but choices which will ensure the future is a better reality than the present and the past.